Hey folks, Dr. Gerstmar from Inspire Natural Health. I hope you're having a stupendous day. Yesterday we talked about the first mindset that's critically important if you want to get healthy. After all, mindsets drive effective actions, and effective actions drive desired results. So if we want to get a desired result, we know we need to take a certain action. But whether we successfully take that action or not is going to largely be dependent on our mindset. So getting our mindset correct, getting the right mindsets in play is the first and most critical part, because if we don't do that, nothing else, the whole chain falls apart and we don't end up with the results that we want to get. All right, so yesterday we talked about the first critical mindset. If you haven't listened to that yet, go back, listen to that one. Let's pick up today with the second critical mindset. So the second positive mindset you're going to need, and from that come the two negative mindsets that you're going to need to avoid. You ready for it? Okay, here we go. So the second critical mindset is realistic optimism. Now, both of those words need to be there. Realistic optimism. Realistic optimism. If we don't have both of those together, we don't end up with what we need. So let's take the opposite of realistic optimism. And there are two parts to it. The first is pessimism, right? Which is that everything's terrible, nothing's going to work out. If you have a pessimistic mindset in general, or specifically here in regards to your health, you'll find yourself saying things like, I'm doomed, I can never get better, nothing's going to work for me, everything's going to get worse. You know, why bother doing anything? And exactly, that's the point of pessimism. Why bother? Why bother taking action? Why bother going to see people? Why bother getting opinions or advice or trying things? Because, right, why bother? It's all just going to be terrible in the first place. So if we find ourselves being pessimistic, recognize that we're not going to take effective action and we're never going to change the results that we're getting right now. Now, the second side of that is we uncouple realistic and we just have optimism, or we have kind of blind optimism or Pollyanna type thinking. Everything's going to be great. And this manifests in two different ways. The first is ignoring things. So in other words, we have pain, or we have symptoms, or we have problems, we have digestive issues, or we have autoimmune symptoms, and we just kind of ignore it. La, 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 everything's going to be fine. This will all take care of itself. I don't need to bother or do anything about it. And of course, that's a recipe for failure there. So please, please don't just try and sweep these things under the rug. After having done this for more than a decade, here's what I can tell you. When people sweep things under the rug, that little monster grows and grows, and it comes back, and it's much, much worse than it was before. People will have relatively mild digestive symptoms, and they'll say, you know what? I think it's fine. It's fine. I don't want to spend energy, money, or time to deal with this now. I'll deal with it some other time. Invariably, what happens, I hear from them again, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years later, and now that digestive issue or that autoimmune symptom is 10 times worse than it was before. So one of the mistakes we make is, with over optimism, is just thinking, it's going to be fine. I don't need to bother messing with it. The second is having unrealistic expectations. It's been my experience in over 10 years, having consulted many, many, many people with autoimmunity, having talked to some of the leading doctors, practitioners, surveyed the literature, done everything I can, that, autoimmunity, for the most part, cannot be fully, completely, permanently cured, meaning it's gone, it will never appear again, it will never bother you, there's nothing there, it's like you flip the light switch off and it's done. I've not seen that to be the case. I desperately wish it were the case, and we're going to keep searching, and I hope we find a way to reliably and consistently do that for everyone. Instead, what we found with autoimmunity is that instead of being an on-off light switch, it's more like one of those dimmer switches where you can turn it up, or you can turn the light level or the volume level up, or you can turn it down, but it's not just on or off. And even if you turn it all the way down so the lights are off, if you go ahead and go back to the lifestyle and the events and the things that happen that trigger this in the first place, you'll turn that light switch back up again, the lights will come on and the autoimmunity will flare up. So we find people who have unrealistic, overly optimistic expectations about what is going on for them. That, they're going to get off all their drugs permanently. This is never going to be an issue. They're going to regrow that arm, not just being a little silly there. But again, we need to have realistic optimism. So we've talked about the two negative mindsets: pessimism, it's never going to work, nothing's going to happen, or the two branches of optimism, it'll work out fine, and ignoring it, or unrealistic expectations that you're going to, do everything is going to be cured and healed and everything will be resolved, beyond what we know we can consistently do for people. So instead of those negative mindsets, we need to adopt realistic optimism. So threading the needle of what we just said, realistic means that we understand the situation and what's going on. None of us lives perfect lives. None of us is able to implement all of the health ideals 100%. And if you can, you're basically giving up the entire rest of your life. Instead, we need to be realistic about what we can do. Eating, exercising, sleeping, managing our stress, all of these factors. This isn't to make excuses for ourselves, but it's also to be realistic and compassionate about what we can get done. And then realism around our health condition. Listen, if you've had the body possesses incredible regenerative and healing capacities. We've seen things heal that we didn't think would, or people making tremendous progress. But those healing powers are finite. There is a limit to what can happen. And if you've had enough damage, if your joints are really messed up, your digestion is really scarred and full of scar tissue, your liver, your kidneys, or any other organ of your body has suffered a lot of damage, there does reach a point where we're not just going to be able to magically make that go away, right? So we need to have some realism about where we are, what we can do, and where we're going to get to. Now, we need to couple that again with optimism, because we have seen incredible things happen. And so we need to be optimistic about what's going to happen, that we can grow and improve, right? That things can get better, that we can make a difference, that we can live a bigger and a better life. We can feel better. We can do things that bring us joy and happiness and purpose, have connections with other human beings, and feel much, much better in our bodies and in our minds. So we need to marry that realism and that optimism together. That's the blend that allows us to take effective action and to get the results that we want. All right, so instead of pessimism or over optimism, we want realistic optimism. And that's the second critical mindset that we need to implement. So if you take stock of yourself, what I invite you to do now is take stock of yourself. Think about what your attitudes are like in regards to your health. Are you pessimistic, or are you overly optimistic, or are you threading the needle properly with realistic optimism? If not, it's not an overnight thing, but we want to shift in that direction. Don't give up hope if you're overly optimistic, but temper those expectations a little bit to what is realistic, and maybe keep a pinch of that over optimism in there, because we never know exactly what's going to happen for a person. And if you're finding yourself being a little too pessimistic or overly realistic, then we want to inject some optimism into the situation as well. All right, folks, that is it for me today. Tomorrow, we will pick up on the third key mindset. So stay tuned for that one. Listen, folks, if you are dealing with digestive issues or autoimmunity, what you need to do next is reach out to us so we can have a conversation. What we do is not right for everyone, but if it is right for you, we will help transform your life. If you're dealing with digestive issues and autoimmune disease, let's have a chat. We'll find out what's going on for you, what your goals are, what your situation is, and whether we're the right fit to help you. If we are, we'll talk about next steps, get things moving forward, help you on that journey towards living a bigger and better life. If we're not the right fit, that is okay. We're definitely not the right fit for everyone, and we will do our best to refer you to someone else who is a better fit for what you have going on or your specific situation. Regardless, you're going to leave that call feeling calm, confident, and excited about what your future is going to hold. So please send us a message, drop us an email, or give us a phone call. Let's get on the phone and have a chat and see if we're the ones who can help transform your life. All right, folks, until next time, take care.